What's up guys, Subzeroark here, doing a video in something that I'm thinking will be a sort of ongoing series, long series, but it's pretty much going to be why insert card name here, and then something. So, like, for this video, it's why BLS should be banned. In another video, it should be, why, Pot of Duality shouldn't be used ever, because it's a terrible card. That's sarcasm, you don't need to tell me it's a great card, I know. Or, why Crush Card Virus should be banned, despite the fact that it's already banned. So that's how that's going to work. This first video, of course, is on BLS. And, people in the past have said stuff, right when Priority was getting taken out, people said, oh, BLS, he's not a problem. This format has definitely shown that he is a problem, and seeing as, the new format's coming up soon, I wanted to talk about it and say that it's time for this card to go. He is a huge problem, so, yeah. Just put a list of stuff down that BLS does. It's not in the video, but it's on in front of me, so I'm just gonna go down the list and talk about stuff. The first thing is not that big of a thing, because it's usually not often, but it's another thing to talk about with what other people said, that he's not gonna be a problem, there's no priority anymore, so you can bottomless him. Okay, so now you can't drop BLS and banish one of my monsters even when I bottomless you. Like, alright, that makes him not extremely broken, he's still broken, and, the only other card that sort of applies to is Compulse. The problem with Compulse is that you drop BLS, they Compulse, if you have more stuff in the grave, you can just play them again. Like, that's a horrible thing about BLS, is that there's a lot of monsters, like Ixies and Synchros, which are a lot of the boss monsters, or quite a few boss monsters, it's stuff like Windups and Heroes, and Six Sams. Stuff like that is susceptible to Compulse, whereas BLS is not. You can bounce them back to your hand, and then they'll just banish stuff and drop them again, so that's a really horrible thing about him, is that he's just, like, he can come back. Now, like, the main thing I want to say about this card, that's just what I want to say, is that his summoning conditions outweigh his power. Chaos Sorcerer is a balanced card. Well, not in this chaos-centric meta, I guess, but he's a pretty balanced card. You banish a light and a dark, you get him. He's a 23 beater, so he's not huge, but he's good, and he can banish a monster, but then he doesn't get to attack. That's balanced. He has an effect that's balanced, that can banish, but then you don't get the attack. He's an attack that's pretty low, and it's balanced, despite the fact that his summoning conditions are pretty easy. You have to set up the grave a little to get him out. And so he's balanced. BLS is pretty much taking Chaos Sorcerer and giving him steroids, but you've kept the summoning condition. So you take this summoning condition and you say, oh, Chaos Sorcerer is balanced. Well, if you take a balanced card like Chaos Sorcerer and add 700 attack and the ability to attack twice, it becomes less balanced. No monster should be a 3000 attack beater that can attack twice, or you can banish a monster that you get out just by banishing a light and a dark. Possibly banishing a light and a dark from hand, so you have to lose advantage to play him, but from grave, that's just too easy, and it just creates advantage. So, he translates directly from hand to field, with no loss in advantage on the field or anything, like having to synchro 2 monsters to make 1. No, he takes 0 monsters and makes 1. The only thing you lost was the card in your hand, so, yeah. He's just really overpowered and you don't have to use very many resources to make him. Another thing that makes him really annoying is that he's a generic boss monster. Boss monsters like Master Hyperion are not generic. They are played in agents, and that's all they can be played in. Boss monsters like BLS and Dark Armed Dragon are generic. They can be played in a plethora of decks. The cool thing about Dark Armed Dragon is that his summoning conditions are annoying and he has a balanced effect. You know, for a summoning condition, I mean, it's a rigid summoning condition, so he should have a good effect. And he also, another point made to be about BLS, he can't be reborn. Where BLS, you can reborn him. So Dark Armed is much more balanced, because you get him out, he's destroyed, you can't reborn him. You know, you're done with your Dark Armed. Whereas BLS, you might be holding Reborn, he gets destroyed, next turn you reborn him, and then you go for game because you have a friggin' pretty much second BLS. It's just crazy. So, back to the generic boss monster. Boss monsters should be deck-centric in my opinion. Like, if you're gonna run even Dark Armed, you sort of have to build the deck with him in mind, I guess is how I'd say it. BLS is so easy to splash into decks, to the point where you can splash Tour Guides, Sangan, Night Assailant, Thunder King, and Veilers, and then suddenly you can run BLS. You've put in this tiny little Chaos Engine, and then suddenly you can run BLS, which is one of the things that angers me the most, is that people are putting stuff like that into their decks, not because it's needed, but solely for the purpose of running BLS, because he's this huge boss monster. It's just not good for the game when people are putting stuff like that into their decks just to bring out a broken boss monster. So, that's another thing I dislike about him. And the last thing I dislike about him is that he facilitates OTKs, or dealings of huge chunks of damage. So, let's have an example. You have a set monster, and you're holding Dark Hole. You have a few cards in your hand, you're gonna make some sort of combo. Maybe you have, like, Shark Magician. I don't know, you've, like, reckless greeded into it this turn, I don't know. Your opponent, on the other hand, has out a Light Pulsar Dragon that they've just brought back with their Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon and a Dark Flare Dragon, so they can attack for a good amount of damage, like 6,000 damage. You're gonna be taken down for a lot, but, you know, you're going to be alright in the end. It's not gonna be the end of the world. Then your opponent drops BLS. The entire flow of the game has been changed. They have an extra 3,000 damage they can do. You could have just imagined Light Pulsar or Dark Flare not even there, so in that situation they would have been dealing, say, 2,500, 3,000 damage. Now they're going for game, because BLS attacks your monster, and then attacks again for 3,000. BLS, in the best case scenario, can be a monster that on his own deals 6,000 damage. That is not good for the game. Now, in that situation, your opponent has has a token on the field, or 2 tokens with 0 attack and attack position, but a good percent of the time, your opponent's going to be attacking with BLS into your, say, Stardust, dealing 500, and then attacking again for 3,000. And a monster that can deal over 3,000 damage just through attacking is not good for the game. So, I said that was my last, I just thought of this last one. My last thing I'm going to say about BLS is that he's a bad card for the game because he is a top deck winner. Winner, chicken dinner if you draw this card. You're playing, you're down to top decking, your opponent's got a few monsters on board, they're gonna do something, they're gonna beat you down eventually. You know, he's got a Thunder King and he's beating you down with it, but he doesn't have any back row, you're hoping to draw into something. You top deck BLS. That's a bad, He's got a Sabersaurus. He's got a Sabersaurus. You top deck BLS. Like, oh, well then, let me just deal 4100 damage in one turn, and then probably go for game next turn if I haven't already. Like, seriously? I don't think there should be a card in the game. There are cards that are good to top deck. Yes, Dark Hole. You can Dark Hole in this situation. You can set a Mirror Force, but none of those cards, all those cards just bring you back to normal. They stop your opponent. This card goes past that. This card completely and utterly stops your opponent and then reverses their work and destroys them. And that's just not fair. Now, I might sound kind of like I'm, salty because I got wrecked by a BLS top deck. No, actually the opposite happened to me. I was playing Prophecies and my opponent completely had the win. They were going to win a couple of turns and I had nothing. They'd locked down basically everything I could do. And then I top decked BLS. Completely destroyed them, went for game that turn. Yep, that's just how the game works. And I was sad to have to do that because my opponent had earned the win. And that is something that we can all agree is bad in this game. Stealing a win from someone who has earned it. Okay? You can make arguments about other parts of BLS, but stealing a win from someone who has earned it, that is just horrible, and we cannot, allow for that to be in the game. So, those are my opinions, of course. You can post yours in the comments if you have differing opinions, I'm sure you do, and if you have supporting opinions, of course, post them as well. That's it for today, guys. I see you guys in the next Yu-Gi-Oh! Related video, be it a deck profile, duel, or one of these thingies, which is, why blank blank. Yeah, it's a horrible name. I'll come up with something later. It'll be like blank, and then there'll be a little Y in the middle, and there'll be a blanks on both sides. Yeah, be quiet. I'll see you guys in the next episode.